Hello, my friends. How are you doing today? I'm gonna be back with another little kind of sort of portrait mixed with fantasy piece I'm gonna be doing here. As you can see, I have my figure blocked out. I have this kind of dark gray on the background. I'm gonna get some white in there to lighten it up. Right now, basically making some clouds in the sky. I just put that gray base on. You don't really need to see me do that. Just pulling a brush across the screen. I feel like you know how to do that. Not pulling a brush across the screen, across the canvas. I left the bottom white because there's going to be a lot of green in there, so. Now I'll just work in some white with a fan brush. There's going to be a lot of vegetation in here, so these clouds will be mostly blocked. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. But I want to get a little contrast in the sky for some of the areas that'll be poking through. Get a little brighter white up in there. Kind of need it down here as well. Down to about 2/3 of the way. Get a little more in here, up alongside her head there. And then push that out a little further as well. Okay. I'm just going to take a bigger brush. I have a 2-inch brush here. I'm just going to very softly pull over this white. Just to fluff out, pull out any texture in it. Maybe we'll cut some of that contrast down as well. Clean that off. Back in my fan brush. Just gonna add a few little areas. A little bit brighter clouds. And again, like I said, most of this will be covered up, so I'm not spending a whole lot of time worried about shape. I'm more just worried about a little more contrast in here, in these parts. That 2-inch brush again. I'm leaving a little texture in the tops of these guys, though. Just so I can kind of come in and put a little motion in them with the fan brush. Okay. And I think now I'm just going to put in the grass. That we'll have on the bottom. Start with the dark green and decide how far back you want it to go. I'm not putting any detail in on it yet because this is in the foreground. And we don't want to detail in the foreground until after we're done with the background. I'm just basically blocking out where it's going to be right now. Leaving our fur feet. And yeah, I need it a little higher up. Go ahead and mix in a little of that lighter green into the stuff that's further back. Not a whole lot. I doubt the difference is even really going to show up on camera. Heck, I don't feel like it's even showing up on my canvas. But that's okay. Because again, we're just blocking in color right now. Uh-oh. Might have to take a break soon. I hear the neighbor's dog squawking at him. Sure you do too, that little squeak. Okay, well, that's about as far up as I really need that. So that's as far up as we're going to push it. Now we can get some tree trunks in there. And take a little bit of my sienna into that green, black. Just pull. Pull that up. I'm sure you can hear because won't be able to take it all out, but she's up there baby talking that puppy right now. Maybe I'll just leave it in because it's wholesome. We'll see. Feel like it's just a muffled voice, so I won't need to ask permission. I'm not recording anyone on purpose except for myself. And even that, I really don't put my face out too much. Because I like to make it about the art, not about myself. A couple smaller trees there. I have a bigger one. Kind of coming up right behind her. As usual, I am basing this on a photograph. I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not duplicating a photograph. There's going to be elements in here that aren't. Maybe I'll ask my friend Jen, who's this based on, if it's okay if I show the reference photo here in the video. Uh-oh, puppy's already getting naughty. Just excited their mama's home. Now, one thing I am going to add. Thing I'm going to add on these trees back here. A little bit of lighter color in the trunks. Catching a little more light. A little black, a palette knife. shade on some of these limbs. A lot of it's going to be covered up, so I'm not going too hard on it, but okay. Clean that off now. Fan brush. Overloaded that one. Man, that's a pretty soft fan brush too, so I'm gonna come out to one of these stiff bristly guys. Get some leaves on these trees. I'm getting that dark green because we're putting in the darker leaves first before we put any highlight on. And now she's vacuuming. So, once again, I'm probably gonna have to take a little break here. Maybe not. Maybe she's done. Maybe now that pup will quiet up some. We'll see. Alright. I am gonna have to take a break here because he will not stop. Apparently he is not a fan of the vacuum. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Alright. Yeah, I can't focus with the amount of noise that little dude's making, so we're gonna take a break. And hopefully he'll quiet down here a little bit, and I can come back to it. Alright. Dog's finally decided to settle down, stop barking so much, so we can come back and put in a little more vegetation in here. It's gonna get some straight up black and go in and spoke too soon about that dog. Alright. Put in a few more little pieces of vegetation down here. Some small trees, bushes, whatever you want to call it. in there. Get my bristle brush and get it dry. If you're wondering what happened to my paint here while I was taking my little break, my phone apparently wasn't, that I used to record, my palette apparently wasn't clipped in very well. It fell out and smacked into the paint, so that's why there's those green glops everywhere. Alright, let's darken some of that up some now so we can get some shadow work into some of these. We need, alright. Now we got the shadow work in on those, we can worry about some highlights. So first we're just going to take our regular green over here to these. Tap them in these areas that are just collecting a little more light than that dark part. Get a little over here as well. I'm going to push some of this vegetation out a little further, I feel like. Got a lot of empty space here in the sky, and I don't really want that, so. Just kind of pushing this tree out a little bit more and up into the corner. Do a few little streaks. A few little streaks to suggest some branches. Don't need much, right? Alright, now we can do our highlights. Take a little of that light green in there. And a little bit of yellow. Actually, before we do our trees, let's just do our little vegetation on the ground here. I'm not going to go through and erase all of them. Actually, no, we're going to save these highlights for when our figure's done. So we'll go back to the trees and bushes down here on the forest floor. Let's get a little more yellow in there. Might have been a little too much. Over here. Add some of that highlight in. I might have overdone it on that tree, so I tend to do that sometimes. My hands get ahead of my eye. So we're just gonna go in with a little regular green on some of these and tone it down. We'll get some shadow color in there too. I'm gonna close that gap up there a little bit, I think. Push that a little further there. It's just looking a little too round and even for my taste. Okay. Alrighty then, so now I get a small brush here, and I'm going to start with some sienna, a little black, and we'll start shaping in her legs. It's actually not dark enough. I feel like I need more black. There we go. Very high contrast photo, so. There we go. Do we push that leg down further? I think we do. I think we do. So we'll bring that shadow down around here. Let's get a little. There we go. Bottom of this leg over here. Fill in a little more sienna, a little more black. Thicken some of that shading up, if you like. Our other foot's gonna be mostly shaded too. There might be a little bit of highlight on there. I think there will be. And I think we'll go ahead and put that on now. We'll get a little one on this here too. Not a whole lot. Okay. Now we're gonna take that sienna. And I'm starting with her legs for two reasons. One, because then we can finish off our background, and two, her arms are kind of resting on her legs, so it makes sense to do the background before we do the foreground. At least in this painting he does. To me. And it's my painting. You can do it however you want if you're painting. This just works for me. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm just telling you what works for me. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not nearly comfortable enough with my abilities to tell you how you have to do it. I just like showing what works for me, and where I can, kind of explaining why I do the things certain ways. That's it. If you're an artist and your method works better, do what works for you. I'm self-taught, and I'm pretty sure any artist who's been to art school worth their salt would be able to tell that right away. But that's okay. Alright, now we need our little lighter. I'm gonna put a little red in there too, just to warm it. That's not quite light enough. Let's get a little more white in there. There. I'm just kind of building up from the darkest to the lightest on her here. Feel like you don't have to put that dark undertone all over her legs or any part of her like I did. I just find it helps get a more even overall tone, so that's why I did it. Once again, I'm just explaining why I do like I do. I'm not telling you how you should do. Take everything I say with a grain of salt in this. My channel exists more for the vibe, the ASMR aspect of it, if you would, as opposed to telling you how to do it. I just like telling you what works for me. But I feel like I'm beating a dead horse by saying that, so I'm gonna stop talking about that now. I'm just gonna go right into some white since I still have some skin color in my paint. Normally I use burnt sienna for this. I was just out, so I'm using raw sienna. It's giving me, a little different tone. And that's part of the reason I'm using a little red in my skin color there to brighten it up some. Not to brighten it, but to warm it. Let's get a little more white. Right in here. Okay, right here. Okay. Now I feel like I need a smaller brush again. Grab one of those. That's gonna go right into some of that sienna. Let's actually go into that dark skin color for this. Since we're putting in lines and creases, shadows and whatnot. Let's shadow out a little bit. Definitely need some of that dark shadow. Over here. Underneath. Then I'm going to clean that little brush. Actually, I'm going to clean the big one I'm still holding so I can... First, we'll take the little brush. I got a little extra paint on there. Okay. I think I want a little more warmth on those legs. So I'm going to take some of that red. But I'm going to, I guess it's more of a cat. It's like more of an orangish red. But I'm just going to brush in a little color in some of these parts. Like I said, give it some warmth. That should work. Okay, and now we have our legs in. Actually, before I do that, let's get our dark layer over the top of this knees where I painted over it a little bit with my trees. That's why we do the background first for situations like that. A little shade there. Okay, so we got what I needed there. Now we can go ahead get in the rest of the vegetation around our feet there. And around her in general, really. Let's go ahead. since we can tell that pretty much our source of light is right overhead, I can put in some shadows right under her. Too much black left in there, didn't I? Okay. Still got that. Alright, well. Use the water in the bucket to clean it out like I should have to begin with. Now we're just gonna cover up those little guys. And then what is that light green again? There we go. Heck, maybe we got just enough break in the canopy over here to, oop. Have a few little areas that are even a little more bright. Let's get a little more on this guy here, just to separate it out from the grass some. We can do the same over here. Heck with it. And get a little sienna here in the corner. Mix into that blackish green. Let's put a few little bushes in the lake right over here. Right down in the corner. Maybe we got one over here too, don't we? We can use them kind of as a framing device. Bang. Get some of that shady green again for shady as in dark, not shady as in it's sus. I don't even know if the kids still say sus. Hard to keep up on the lingo anymore. Now go into our light green again. And then we'll take a little, just a little yellow green and a few little spots on these fellers. And what the heck, let's get a palette knife and just scrape in a few little sticks here and there with the corner. Just takes that paint off. Makes it look a little less even. I don't want that one there, I don't like it, so we're just gonna dot in a little color over some of these lines here to break the sticks up some. Right. There's the brush I want. We're gonna go medium sienna. Just kind of frame out where that arm is. Get a little highlight color. Kind of gotta decide where the sun is. And it's I feel like it's pretty much directly overhead, but maybe off over a little bit to a right. So more highlight over there. All right. Oh. Also need some highlight. This knee over here. That way. Okay, next thing I want to paint in is, just before I go anywhere else, get this nice big brush just over here in the corner. I just want to add in a little more vegetation. Okay, I don't know why that caught my eye, but it did, so I figured I would do it. All right. Okay, now we can get her next arm. Remember, going forward to backwards here. Or backwards to forward, I mean. Background to foreground. Gonna get basically your upper arm, a little bit of the shoulder there. That's the word I'm looking for. Furthest back from our viewer, from our camera, if you will. I'll get some highlight in there. Right. Actually, before I do anything else, let's get her chest painted in. And starting with the darkest color. Okay, there it goes down to about there. Okay. I feel like that highlight might have gone down a little too far, so let's get a little more. Just see enough. Now, at the end of the day, she will be wearing kind of a transparent shawl, so we're not going to go too whole ham. The nipples, I just wanted a little darker so that it shows through the semi-transparent shawl when I add that in later. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get this arm. And that's going to be mostly the shade color because of the way it's angled. It's kind of holding it out like that, and this is the part we're going to see. So it will be mostly dark. That's not dark enough. Let's get a little more that black and sienna in there. There we go. That's better. Be like that knee. It's a little dark, so I'm gonna put a little highlight out. A little more shade up in here, around that arm there. Actually, we need some I see that I want to put in around this other arm before it gets painted in. If you're wondering why I'm making up a little gray, I just want to fill in that area with a little gray paint. Okay. Need a smaller brush again now. Put our fingers up here. Too much paint there, so I'll just pull that out to get rid of that texture. And yes, she is holding something, that's why you can't see all the way around her hand. Let's actually go ahead and get the base of what she's holding painted in there too. By the time I'm done with the painting, you'll be able to see more details on this little fella she's holding. Which, if you couldn't tell, is going to be a frog. Okay, now I can get... Let's get some shadow where we need it. Our fingers there. overshadowed. I want some of that space. And then we can get a little highlight as well. Actually, that's for that highlight. Let's just go in with some white. I need a thinner brush. That one's a little too thick still. There we go. Thin it up some. Alright. That pulled to a pretty good chisel. There we go. That was a little too much. I'll just kind of work that in. Alright, now I want that slightly whiter brush again. Oh, that's not the color I want, I think. Oh, there's the color I want. I just want to burn some of that out a little bit more. Alright. Now we got a little highlight on that arm. I'll put a little highlight on that knee. And on this shoulder. Heck, we'll even get a little more over here. Maybe I even want a little more on these legs here. Well, that dries a little bit. Take a minute to clean the brush. And then working things on our forest floor here. Little tufts of grass. Just here and there. I believe I may have stumbled across something that'll make my life a lot easier. And that's doing highlight to shadow when I'm using these broken up blades instead of doing shadow to highlight. Okay. Then let's go ahead. I just want to punch in a few more highlights here and there. There's even a little foliage coming over that trunk. Okay. Now we can get this other arm. Get some of our shade for inside. And the bottom. And some straight up sienna that I used to fill in most of it. And now I need some highlight over on the side. Brighter highlight on the arm there. Kind of took some of that highlight out a little too far, I figure. I feel. So, we'll work a little more of that base sienna color. Get some highlight. Not enough of a highlight. Let's get a little more weight in there. Reshape that shade here, so. And reshape this arm a little bit too. Okay, and then we're getting, let's go ahead. Let's get the shape of her face in. Yeah. Don't worry about the hair later. Pull some of that paint flood. Get some of that shade color. Then we're gonna get, let's go ahead and get just a few little areas in here. Some highlight on her face that'll be important for later. Some shadow too. I also want a little more highlight on this arm and this So, not a whole lot. Okay, now get some shade. Honestly, the side of her face is going to be shaded more, not just because of the last direction of the sun or the light, whatever our light sword is, but because the hair hanging down. Let's get a base for the hair. Okay. Oh, completely forgot about these fingers down here, didn't I? That's okay. Get those filled in. Get a little highlight. A little highlight on these fingers here. And then I think at this point, call it a day for this one for now. Let everything dry. I can come back after work tomorrow and finish it up with the details. So I'm not sure when I'll have part 2 uploaded, but it should be within the next week and a half. And I'll see you then as we finish her off. You guys have a great day today.